Hey, go ahead and get started. We've got some people filtering in now, so I'm sure we'll have a few others join as we get going. So first, I want to make sure, James, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay. All right, good. So, hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aaron Banner. I'm the security director for XenTegra. So, thanks for joining us today. For today's Partner Spotlight series, we've got a very exciting capability to introduce to our audience. And I'm pleased to be joined by James Davis, who's the Chief Product Officer for Kasm Technologies. Kasm is a capability that I've got some familiarity with from my time in the military. And we at XenTegra, we're really excited about Kasm, what it can deliver in the security and in the IT space. So with that, let me go ahead and quickly move along. I'll introduce myself. And there we go. All right. So after retirement from the Army, just back here in July, I moved back to Boone, North Carolina, where I'm originally from, and both my wife and I went to school at. So go Mountaineers. I'm a retired Army colonel. Had about 31 years in the military. The last 26 plus of those were focused on IT and cyber, and I run our security practice. So, what I'm passionate about is protecting our country, and I think in this capacity I can do that by protecting our businesses. I had this revelation when I was attending the Army War College, and I was writing my thesis on a cyber related topic, and feedback I was getting was a lot of the smaller and medium businesses had kind of given up on trying to defend against our adversaries. And so that just ignited a passion in me to do something once I left the military. And I even decided to leave the military a little earlier than I probably would have because I became so passionate about that. I've got a leader first mindset. And really, I want to build, relevant capabilities with the necessary services that our customers have come to us and said they need, but focus really on full scope, full spectrum, if you will, cybersecurity capabilities. And if you look at the security landscape, it's massive. So what I've focused myself on, I've got a partner, Matt Stewart, and he focuses on our internal services, but I've been focused on assessing and finding the best of breed technologies, capabilities, companies that deliver the greatest value as we drive down prices to deliver to our customers. And so I wanted to give a little bit about XenTegra before we turn it over to our Kasm team. So who is XenTegra? So we're a value-added reseller. We're focused on building strong partnerships to drive value for our clients by assessing and identifying those best in breed capabilities that I mentioned, partnering with those companies, and then driving deep discounts for our customers to deliver quality products at the best price available. On the consulting and managed services side, we're completely customer focused with emphasis on delivering a digital workspace in a solutions focused manner to address the very challenges that our customers experience. XenTegra offers a host of complementary assessments, addressing the most significant challenges we see our customers having. We're continually refining those assessments while seeking solutions as challenges arise. So we've developed these assessments that span, IT, modern applications, networking, and particularly security. The most recent assessments that we've developed, both security focused, we developed them throughout the third quarter, based on the feedback we were getting, and those focus around the areas of Salesforce and SaaS apps. And the bottom line is at XenTegra, we're focused on building a community and then creating solutions that serve that community. So, hey, with that, I'm going to turn it over to James with Kasm. Let me stop sharing here, and I'll let James talk to us a little bit about Kasm. All right, James, over to you.
Thank you, Aaron, very much. Again, I love Andy's comment there. Build a community and that creates solutions that serve that community. The end user computing and the cloud and such, those communities are so tight knit and have such great people that are involved in them. I love working out with those guys. So I'm going to start sharing my screen.
Hey, and while you're sharing, I'll just mention if you have questions, please pop them in the chat. As we're going through this, we've got someone monitoring the chat, and we'll try to get to your questions before we conclude.
That's right. And Chase said, "Don't move. Don't even move. Don't move mouses. Nothing." We're gonna get to you guys again. Definitely, if you have a question, wait till the end, but definitely throw it in the chat as soon as you can, so you don't lose it in the context, because that also often happens to me. So again, thanks again, Aaron and XenTegra, for allowing us to really talk to the community, to the ability to really talk about secure access and elevated efficiencies. I put this into play from the perspective of the future of enterprise browsing is key. Everywhere, every country, and every company I've ever gone into, right now, there's a browser on that desktop, no matter which one you go to. And I think that's really what we're going to be talking about specifically here as we start moving forward. A little bit about us, Kasm Technologies. We've been around for quite a bit of time, around 2017. Our executive teams are built out of, again, the cybersecurity industry. This was actually a project that came out of out of the Department of Defense called Project Maven. As you start dealing with that type of platform that was needing to be created, that platform was set to, by Google, Harvard, a couple of different universities, a lot of intelligent minds putting things together, because they knew they were going to have to figure out the right collaboration with the different nation states, collaborations with adversaries and defensive natures, and drive it all together so that they can also offensively put in malware or add in ransomware, things of that nature, while making sure they can't take out in certain scenarios. So when this product was created, it was created under the idea that it was going to be a secure collaborative activities that were going to be put in place. Me personally, I'll give a little background about myself. Again, I'm the Chief Product Officer for Kasm. I actually came about this particular conversation a year or so ago, in which I needed to have a clientless access to a virtual desktop on a operating system that no longer supported any clients. And, it was roughly going to be about bringing in 73 different people to start working on this application. And there was no way to put on any type of Teradata client, Tahama client, Citrix client. So what we had to do was improvise, and we ended up putting the client inside of a container and delivering it through Kasm, in which it helped us deliver also the DLP, or the controls that we needed inside there. And of course, I got hooked. After I saw it from that perspective, it was a really different way to actually look at addressing the business itself. Again, we've been around for quite a while. We have quite a few different customers that are pretty diverse type of customer sets that are out there. Everything from the sixth largest, sixth most important company in the world based on silicon chips, down through high university schools, all the way down through military implementations and installations. So a lot of the things I can specify is that when you think about our customer sets, you think about that it's about mission criticality. If we used it, if it's a mission critical type scenario, if you're worried about the security or the sensitive IP nature, you're definitely leveraging us in that nature. But one thing all these customers have in common, again, not just that they all have a browser, but they all have to face the problem that we're all facing right now. And that's either your office first, hybrid, or remote first. Again, normally you know, from a raise of hands or an emotion piece, like if you're office first, you know, understand, been there. Hopefully you live close to the office. You know, here in California, just driving between those two spots, you have a lot of different, you know, costs that are put on the end user, right? Most of them are hybrid, going one way versus the other, but a lot of them are remote first from that perspective. But, you know, as we kind of waffle on who's which one and which is said, there is a trend that is clear, and that trend is clear, and it is hybrid. I think, Aaron, you made a great comment earlier where you were just talking about a lot of the customers are coming in and seeing the SaaS applications and such are the ones that they start needing to start looking at when they're doing security assessments, because a lot of them are starting to be used in that nature. More SaaS applications got brought in and since 2019 to 2023 altogether. As well as there's a lot that, you know, back in the day when I was first starting this in play, it was a 70-30 split in which 70% was all on premise, and that 30% was some special remote developers, some keys that were in play, but everything was really primarily on site. And, you know, we thought that it protected us, it created it safer. And then when everybody went out to hybrid, we felt like a whole bunch was pushed out there. But in reality, that's not the only way that we're getting affected. We're actually getting affected in multiple different areas. You know, if I look at this chart through Gartner, again, I actually happened to be at the Gartner Symposium last week. If you guys had a chance, it was a great atmosphere, a lot of conversations around the cybersecurity and understanding of where we're going, and, you know, really trying to figure out, like, as you're looking at what's getting exposed, how are you getting affected? It's really important, right? 90% of the problems usually come in through the browser, right? Either I've chosen an email that is a phishing email, or, you know, again, removable USB devices are really funny. I remember back with going to school in advanced computer security, we'd have a box of USBs and we'd walk in front of a bank and trip and fall and drop all these USBs on the floor, act like we're picking them up and walk away. But after a while, about the afternoon, you'd have, you know, account names and so forth from the keylogger that you put on that particular USB that somebody thought was pretty and took it inside. Right? Used to sell CDs on the actual street that were bogus CDs that were just ransomware based. Or even better, when you think about third-party contractors or organizations, you used to go to pawn shops and you'd buy a list of a list of laptops that you would be able to utilize and see different accounts, because nobody, you know, cleaned off laptops or anything of those natures. So there's a lot of stuff that's out there that, you know, you can come in one way versus the other, but more importantly, that 21% of how I get attacked, I mean, that remote attacks on servers. If you think about Colonial Pipeline or JBS Foods, both of those two got attacked by the vector of having a VMware environment connected to a NAS. Now, I'm sure nobody here has that problem of VMware with a NAS environment that they didn't patch or push them forward, but that's how easy it is for them to start coming in and getting affected. So it's a multi-pronged effect of what you're looking for when you're thinking about the security. And the risk is technically everywhere, right? I love the idea where people talk about work from anywhere. Well, that's not really true, right? It's work from these specific spots and locations. That's what I'm really doing, because if I know the fact that I have to basically open up my network or my data to every Starbucks in the world, because that person could be sitting at a Starbucks somewhere, that makes the risk and the problem much more greater than if I could, you know, narrow the bandwidth or narrow the focus of what I'm trying to make sure that's exposed externally. I mean, I was you know, being a remote worker, I you know, sometimes I go out to my car, and of course I didn't drive my car in 3 months, sometimes 4 months, and I have to go get a quick meeting. By the time my battery's dead. I don't know if anybody's ever experienced that, but that happens to me often. And so I ended up running and having to jump on a train, which, if you get a chance, definitely take trains nowadays. I love them. And it has Wi-Fi built in, but of course I'm a security conscious person, so I'm not jumping on the public Wi-Fi. I'm using the VPN Wi-Fi directly out of my phone and trying to get onto the internet from that perspective, because again, location, the way that it's all set as far as origination of my signal is key. great. But even the wireless communication between my laptop and my phone was still susceptible to the types of traffics or the type of occurrences that could have happened out there. And I think that's really important, is that the risk is everywhere, and that's really been hard. Whether it's at the browser level, in which it's the small because that's the way it comes in, or it's a much greater level when you think about the attack surface and the attack vectors of 30 years worth of software that's been built into Windows or Linux or Mac or such, that have those vulnerabilities that haven't just been exploited yet. So a lot of it, again, when we're talking about protecting a lot of the pieces as far as protecting the country and the movements, most of the businesses are not large businesses. Most businesses are small to medium or mid-market businesses. That's the largest majority where they don't have the skill sets to actually help out in those scenarios. So the risk is pretty much everywhere. And again, how you attractively work that risk, because I love this slide in the aspect that the conversations that I have with people when I ask them, if you were to say, and just take a step back and say, how much of your workload is actually in the browser? Right? How much are you using inside there? Is it 50, 75%? Most people are like 80. When you look at them, they're like, yeah, 100%. I use it every single minute of the day for almost everything that I use it for. And if you get to developers and such, they are primarily 100%. As you come down into the knowledge workers and the mid-markets, they're starting to use so many more SaaS applications, of course, Salesforce and so forth. These are all the ones that they're starting to gravitate towards. Now, most of the people that I talk to, they'll tell me, oh, no, I'm up here. I'm up in this upper area because I still have all these regular Windows applications that I'm still using. And I would hearken that you how many Windows applications or applications do you guys decommission? Right? Because that's the real question, is like, when was the last apps that you guys decommissioned and said, yeah, we don't use that app anymore? But your workflow probably has moved on. Your workflow has actually moved into some of the browsers and some of the movements. And I think that's really the focal point that I'm going to start with, and why I say it's the future. And the enterprise browsing is at that point, because every location has a browser, every device has a browser. I was just talking earlier, and my toaster got an update. It has a browser now, and it can do its things that it needs to do. Now I've got to be trained on that browser. Right. And that's the problem with that particular scenario, is that, again, it's the least cost or the simplest endpoint is what I really want to get to. But those persistent security challenges exist everywhere outside there, right? It's not just that I want to get in through the browser, but it's about, again, that skill sets. How did I get, on my necessary toaster and figure out what I needed from the skill sets? Or is it the supply chain independence? As we knew, as the pandemic went about, or where we're at right now, there's still supply chain issues that are going on, especially in the software build processes, right? A lot of these evolving IT models are really important. So how do I take my existing platforms that I've had before, and I reshape them to fit against these persistent security challenges that are existing today, right? How do I really pull those pieces together? Especially when, and this is the one I think that if you look at anything that you leave from here, remember that 76% of these are all happening after work, right? 76% of the implementations, deployments are happening after hours. And as we're about to come into November and December, those particular months where most people take off on vacations, they have the long holidays and long weekends, those 3 days really make a big difference in this situation, because that's when they're attacking, because they don't take the same holidays we take in that particular nature. And you'll find that the volume of taxes has been increasing at that nature. So a lot of that has been really important. It's trying to figure out, how do I effectively go against that security backend that's in play, those persistent threats that are coming in play, the users, the way they're bringing it in. And I think that's really where you find that our platform has really made a major difference from this particular component. One of the pieces that we do in different use case scenarios is that we do everything from in one platform as a desktop as a service. If you still need access to Windows, Linux, or machines that are in play, we do the orchestration and the automation around those. Whether it be I need access to a Citrix application, or whether I need access to a Horizon application, we can actually containerize those particular apps and deploy them back through secure remote access. If we want to have access where we're looking at the cyber threats or the research, That's, of course, we're Maltego, we're Hunchly, we have a lot of the different Kali Linux implementations directly on the platform that you can use for this threat intelligence and this capabilities. And it's part of the platform. I think the really important aspect is that this is security delivering IT versus IT delivering security. I think that was a coined phrase that I always love to hear, is that when you start looking at what we can actually start producing, everything from web isolation and intermediacy to privacy attribution, where I want to have a system spun up, a browser spun up in London versus a browser spun up in Singapore, right? These are all the aspects around the different use cases that we have support or capabilities. And how do we do this specifically? Well, we do it by creating instantly launching remote apps and applications on any device with no software to install. That was a piece that was the most mission critical, is that mission criticality says there's not a client that's involved in this conversation. Everything is through the browser. And there's not a direct path back to from the browser to the actual data center, because we're rendering the data and images out to the actual browser itself. So there's not a direct connection directly in that's managing this. That can be, again, a VPN or something of that nature that I can go through. It's a zero trust at the endpoint, preventing malware and data loss, because again, it's all rendering based, and it's a full DevOps structure. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but it's all the built-in security with no additional components to manage, no additional endpoint pieces, no additional networking configurations or movements. It's all on how you actually attractively get to the actual infrastructure itself. So just at a high level, again, I try not to make it super technical, but of course, I'm always going to make it technical in some way, shape, or form. It's easy, again, agentless web browser connects across, user logs in. The only thing that we're accepting back is keystrokes. And then we're just simply pushing out the virtual image to that browser. As you're starting to move around inside the environment, the security is really placed right there. You have the ability to start getting the DLP, the data loss prevention is all in that particular spot right there. And then the backend server is a direct data flow to the delivery of data, which is really important. So it's a secure desktop delivery of both the containerized application in the middle, and the containerized app that's in a persistent or non-persistent nature of itself. And then it's a path to the data specifically that's very secure. Now, when I was a kid, there used to be this cool little Captain Power. And you'd be able to take your little item, you'd be able to shoot the actual window, and of course, you'd be fighting the pieces on the TV, and your guy would pop out. Well, we kind of did the same thing. With this QR code, you can actually experience it, right? So again, if you've got a second, you can pull out your phone, you can use a QR code against the actual front end, and then you could actually experience the desktop that's spun up. And then you can actually see the DLP and the controls and things that are available for that particular conversation. So again, I always like to try it and play with it. I'm gonna leave it up there for a quick second to see if everybody wants to get it. All right. Again, this will be available afterwards. Same in the video picture itself. Okay. So as you start looking at this, where are our major key differentiators? Again, web native, that's the way that we need to be brought in. Zero trusted, browser-based access. It is segmented because it's in that container specifically, but it's running a full stack browser. And again, it could be any type of browser. It could be, again, Edge browsers, Island browsers. It could be, Chrome browsers, Chromium browsers, any type of browsers that we can deliver out. But we actually deliver out containerized applications, Windows servers, Linux, and of course, you can even connect to Macs with this environment. DevOps enabled, meaning that the containers themselves actually do a day 2 operations, and it's entirely flexible and customizable by the end user. Everything from the way the landing page works to how they're actually leveraging it in the giving it out to vendor access, as an example. Okay. And I want to talk a little bit more about that architecture that's the foundation of this overall conversation, is because when you think about the workspaces itself and the browser itself is broken out in a container the way that we've developed it. And the app and the OS are actually 2 separate layers in this actual container itself. And we actually built the pipeline that goes off and finds the browser's, of course, latest and greatest patches and updates, as well as the operating system's latest and greatest updates. And it actually does this pipeline every single night. So every night, it's always at the latest and greatest of what it is actually needing to have access to. So when you open up that browser today, it's going to be at its latest version. When you open it up tomorrow, it'll be at its latest version at that point as well. And we keep the OS and the user profile and data separate. So the user persistence and the user data persistence can actually be held off on a separate drive, which you can run additional antivirus, ransomware, malware type activities against that particular front end as well. So a lot of key capabilities with the nightly automated CDIC patching that happens for that end user as you start looking at it moving forward. Okay. That kind of gives you that overall Kasm workspace experience. Again, this is a front end that kind of gives you that front end look. We can do everything again from Windows, Mac. You got your normal applications that you would normally push out, as well as your distros that you would never actually use. And then you have full access to your environment comes into play. Okay, Kasm Workspaces itself can be deployed in any cloud. We are not specific to workspaces for Oracle or Oracle, Google, AWS, Azure, your own home data center, your own backend piece, and it actually has a global deploy ability using our Terraforms against these environments as well that you can download and start leveraging from there as well. Okay. The on-prem installation, again, it allows you to do scaling. So if you have a VMware environment on-prem, you could actually scale via your VMware environment. If you have a cloud environment and want to deal with it hybrid, you can take advantage of both. There's not one lock set in. It has the ability to kind of work that way for both flexible access deployments and remote security. When I talk about that flexible security or that deployment models, it's kind of set. So in that first deployment model, if you wanted it to run in the cloud, you can spin it up in the cloud. Where it says this Kasm agent, an agent is actually a cluster agent. It's not necessarily an agent you install on something. It's a cluster agent where the containers are being spun up at. All of that can be running in the cloud with a direct path access, again, DRG, MPLS, back to the enterprise data to get access to any of the file systems that you may have, and everything's running up in the cloud. A good advantage of this conversation is being able to start taking advantage of ARM processors as a good example. A lot of cloud providers are currently implementing ARM-based processors for their browsers and for their capabilities that are needed out there. We run on those particular ARM-based browsers as well. So it is a lot easier to manage and spin up, as well as your price performance is much greater. And you can deliver this in a hybrid notion in which I can still get access to back-end stuff in the enterprise, but actually have the workload running inside the cloud itself. Again, I can go the other direction. I can put all of it on the on-prem, in which I can run everything on-prem. I can run it even in an offline fashion. So that if you need to bring it underneath your own scope, or if you need to bring it into a dark site, you have the ability to leverage it in that nature, utilizing our capabilities, specifically direct access via zero trust to your own file systems or resources. But again, browser that comes in and connects directly in that environment. Again, you can actually run it in the hybrid. Again, working the control plane in the outside cloud environment while running the actual cluster agents inside the enterprise network, where I want to keep my Windows machines or I want to keep my desktops that are in play. Again, your Windows licensing model is your preferred model, whether you do it out in the cloud and you're doing it basing on subscription, or you're doing it on-prem and you're using your own licensing inside. All of those still stay the same from that perspective. And so a lot of clean deployment models that you can get within. You don't have to stick within one or the other, or do different cloud gateways and all kinds of different stuff. It's pretty much clean deployment models. Now, again, a lot of our customers, when they start seeing this or start leveraging this, they say, you know what, I just want the service. Just give it to me as a service. And so we actually went through the process of partnering with Oracle to be able to build out a Kasm Workspaces for Oracle, in which we can deliver everything in a high assurance SaaS based environment. Again, when you think about Workspaces for Oracle, or you think about us running it in that environment, we're looking at it from a high assurance. What does that mean? It means it's primarily NIST 853 compliant. It has a lot of compliances around SOC and POC with PCI compliance that we are applying to the actual environment itself as we're spinning it up and managing it from your perspective. We do everything from the cloud browser by itself, if that's what you're just wanting to access to, or let's say you want to have access to a full desktop environment in which, again, Windows, Mac, Linux, those type of desktop environments all exist that we can actually provide capabilities directly access to. Or if you're looking for open source intelligence and web research, we have those environments as well that you can spin up, get access to, start working with those. And again, this is all in the service deliverable scenario. So it is as easy as, you know, calling up XenTegra. I want to start running this as a service. Let's start really pushing this particular piece out and where we need to get it going. Okay, those are a lot of stuff from that particular perspective. We start looking at trying to figure out where we all fit at and how it all sits specifically. We are primarily again, a browser platform that's delivering both access via the browser to any resource that you're looking at internally. And there are a lot of great components that a lot of the other ones provide that we, of course, give that same capability to, but add a more efficiency type scenario where we're able to be efficient in the where it's deployed, how it's deployed, the fact that we are, again, a big open source, and a lot of our code is partially open source, so it is easier to look at it from a security perspective because you can actually go through and do a security review over the code base, and actually decide whether or not it's good for you or your environment specifically. Right. So there's a lot that's out there that's equal to or like us or better than us in the aspect of a desktop versus a browser. But we try to provide all of it in that one spec. That's one platform where we can give you some ease of management and have some real good cost efficiencies built in. Okay. All right. I think I went through that pretty quickly. I think I got a couple of minutes left on this conversation. And so one of my favorite quotes that I got from when I was in Gartner was this one. Again, being able to go in, have some great conversations out at Gartner where there's different industries that have all came in. There are people who have actually experienced the actual ransomware or the movement. And as you're out and you're talking to these analysts or you're having drinks with people and you come back with one of these quotes, it puts a whole different meaning on that hype cycle. Right. It's like, yeah, I'm hype, but yeah, I heard about all that. But when you actually talk to somebody who's actually had it happen to them, it becomes an entirely different conversation of what is actually, fragile. What, it's kind of like your house got broken in. I've seen people's houses get broken into, and that sucks. But it's, when it happened to me, that was a whole different world. It's like your whole sense of security changes. What I'm using next time is going to change. How I interact with the customer is going to change. And so again, protection is key in the front of the overall conversation.
Yeah, James, I really like that quote. That was at the Gartner Symposium you were at, right?
Yep,
You heard that?
Exactly. That was at the Gartner Symposium.
Yeah, it's just a great quote, and I can't tell you how many times I get contacted by X company that says, "Hey, we just got ransomware, we just got this, we just got that. Can you help?" And yeah, we can help after the fact. We do IR and we do remediation, but in the back of my head, the only thing I'm thinking is, man, could we have had this call a month ago? Could we have talked a month ago? Because we almost certainly could have avoided this situation, and it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, because it's some of the easiest ways that that people get in. It is lack of security, and it's about 88% is human error, right? And again, it's not human error in the aspect that this person is being malicious and they're trying to do this. It's the fact that AI and cybersecurity is not an IT thing; it's a whole company thing. The whole company has to be involved in the conversation to really make these actually work out. And I think that's really the big thing that you did walk away from out at that event, is that it's not just this one person, it's all of us. We got to figure out if we're going to make ourselves strong and actually be defendable, we have to work in that nature to be defendable.
Yeah, and I think I've told you, I don't know how many times now, but one of my thoughts about Kasm is the way it's unique is it's you have a lot of things that are IT, and then you kind of plug in security to make it secure. But but Kasm truly is a security tool that delivers IT. Very, very different approach, but I really like it.
Absolutely. So I got a couple of seconds here. I was going to give a little quick demo. Again, this is off of a XenTegra cloud-based environment. What you get in front of you are the towels that are available based against my group. My group, I'm showing a couple of direct applications that are containerized. We have direct desktops that you can get access to. Again, different distros, and then applications that are set specifically. When you do click on them, the question I always get often is around persistence. Like, well, are they persistent? Do they have the ability to stay persistent? The answer is yes. That persistent is held off of the environment itself. It's held on a share, NAS, Wasabi, whatever you're looking for to hold that in. And then the container is actually spun up based against the actual agent cluster, or where it's actually at itself. So those two are then connected together from that point of view. Now, if I want a fresh machine every single time, I could disable that persistence so that it actually spun up a fresh one. Maybe I'm doing an install or something of that nature, but I can always keep my persistence that I may want to have in play at all points in time. Again, what we do is we spin up a desktop. You get the instant on, you get the DLP capabilities immediately associated with your, container itself. You can go, of course, full screen. And you get your full access to application sets. We do a lot of these particular environments so that you can actually, from a developer's perspective, it's like I just pulled up, let's call it 90% of their job between a notepad, a Visual Studio Code editor, and the browser within this particular container in a matter of seconds, right? And the thing is they can't pull anything out. They could upload something if I needed it to. They could download something. I can adjust the stream quality because maybe I want it more sharper, or I'm looking at 4K machines. I could share this instance with someone else, another developer I'm working with. They still have to go through strong identity to be able to share this session, so you know who it is that's actually working with it, right? Or again, I could just move back into the workspaces spot, have that running still in that space. And let's say I wanted to pause it, right? How many times have you ever had a browser up and you had a whole bunch of tabs in, and you just wanted to pause it so that you could come back to it later, but I didn't want to give up the resources that it was supposed to give. If I were to leave this desktop and log on somewhere else, because this session is still running, I'd get access to it just like I would be, on a plane, flew into LA, got off, same session would be up and open for me. Okay. When you start looking at, the different types of scenarios that you can get in, again, this is just a browser. In the browser sense, we can push in the Chrome extensions, the what do you call it? The Chrome extensions, the what are those things called? The browser bookmarks. That's the browser bookmarks. You can pull in all the particular areas from there and put those in the finites. As well as, again, you can run Windows-based environments. We actually build auto scaling into the Windows-based environment so that as you're starting to deploy them, they can be spun up wherever they're needing to be at. You get full access to them. Again, this is a ability to go full screen because I may want to get on something and do something that is out there crazy. Who knows what it may be. Once I'm done with that particular thing, again, I can do my uploads, downloads, but I can also delete. As soon as I'm done with that particular instance, as I was auto scaling, it would help delete those and come down from that particular scenario as well. Or again, just running direct applications by themselves. So I wanted to provide VS Code access to that particular developer. He's off and he's running, doing his thing. So a lot of stuff thrown at you. We always like to throw a lot of different things in this space, but all of those are all containerized. They all have the automations that are built in, and all are accessible from a single web browser. So with that, I am going to open it up for questions. If you actually have any questions that we can answer.
Yeah, I think Paul is also monitoring the chat. I've been monitoring the chat, James, and I don't see any questions in the chat. So I think that's it.
Well, thank everybody who got a chance to come in, and definitely give us a contact or call out if you would like to get a little further info on this. You can download this. There are no gates to get you downloaded in. If you want to, get a little further along in the conversation, reach out to XenTegra, Aaron, myself. We definitely will be able to help you guys get a little further along.
Hey, James, don't forget to mention the giveaway. I know
Oh,
you guys are giving away a pretty cool thing. So I know somebody here is going to get it.
Oh, that's a great thing. So me personally, when asked about this, I said, number one thing that I'd give away is a VR, because when I first got into VR, and I actually did it for education, and when I went through this life sciences museum using these VR goggles, it changed. I mean, the type of retention I was able to maintain with experiencing the inside of a human cell was entirely different than reading a book and trying to piece together how it's supposed to structurally work, where you can actually look at it. It was an amazing conversation. I was for sure everybody's going to have VR very soon. Well, it's taken a little bit of time, but we're at least glad to help out in this scenario. So we're giving away an HTC HTC Vive, in which the HTC Vive is an important characteristics or distinction from also like the Oculus and such, in which the HTC Vive gives you room scale. That is a really big thing, is that it gives you room scale, has two of the dipole laser boxes, so that you can actually increase the space in your room and you can actually walk around in the VR. And this is versus inside of like the Oculus or the headgear that don't have room scale. You have to actually do teleportation, or you have to jump in back and forth and kind of break up the actual experience. Being able to walk towards something and touch something and pick it up brings it all together, guys. So that is the prize that we're putting out today.
Yeah, thanks, James. And so we'll do a raffle following this series, and we'll contact the lucky participant who's gonna receive that.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for the day. Thanks everyone for attending.
Right. So